Welcome to the Revolution Nothing Less show. Today is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. This is our 262nd episode. My name is Sansara Taylor, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Michelle Chai. Welcome, Michelle.
Thanks, Sansara. It's very glad to be here in studio. Welcome. This show is about a real revolution, a revolution to emancipate all of humanity. And we base ourselves on the new communism that has been brought forward by the revolutionary leader, Avakian.
So in today's episode, we're going to do two big things. First, Refusefascism.org made a major announcement this past week, including on the ground in Washington, D.C. at a protest that they led against the military occupation and against the whole Trump fascist regime. Refuse Fascism has announced that starting November 5th, they are calling for people to converge in Washington, D.C., to non-violently surround the White House, surround the Capitol, surround the illegitimate fascist-packed Supreme Court, and raise the demand that Trump must go now. And from that day forward, it's on. Non-violent, mass non-compliance, mass defiance, mass protests across the country, and again in growing numbers in Washington, D.C., not stopping until the regime has been removed from power, driven from power. So we're going to hear more about that and get into that a little bit more. And the other big thing we're going to do is we're going to hear from Bob Avakian, the architect of the new communism, the revolutionary leader who, as Michelle said, we promote and follow on this show, where he breaks down what is socialism. And just as a little teaser up front, no, it is not, as Mamdani says, free buses, free and fast buses and childcare and freezing the rent within an imperialist country that is resting on and feasting on the people of the world, super exploitation, child labor and enslavement, wars and genocide, and rising fascism at home. But hey, you get free and fast buses. No. Socialism is a radically different system after this system of capitalism and imperialism has been overthrown. What that looks like, what it can accomplish, we'll be hearing from Bob Avakian. It's very deep and very important part of the show.
On this first topic, though, I just want to emphasize to our viewers what a big deal it is that Refuse Fascism has put out a call to flood Washington, D.C. with a date. November 5th, right? In a moment when you think about how even this call begins, right? Fascism is no longer a looming threat. It is here. We're facing it. They are on track to actually fully locking down their power in this country, right? And at the same time, right, the possibility to actually defeat this fascism and actually bring forward those millions that actually do exist in this country, right? Who deeply hate and know and don't want to live in a fascist America, right? To bring that forward. And here's the importance of Refuse Fascism initiating that call to bring that into the streets and raise the demand that this whole fascist regime must go now to drive it from power, right? You think about everything that we're confronting, right? Everything that we've been seeing of the real lives of people that this fascism is destroying, right? I was thinking about less than a month ago, I attended the viewing of the body of Jaime Alanis Garcia. Jaime was in his place of work in Oxnard, right? When these fascist, like masked, federal agents like stormed this place of work, chased this man. Literally, he fell 30 feet to, where he broke his head and his neck. He was in a coma and then he died, right? I went right up to his casket. They had to put a beanie on this man's head to cover the trauma of what they had done to his body, right before they sent his body to Mexico to be buried by his wife and his child. This is the real horror of what this fascist regime is doing. And this is a man that came to this country to work to send money back to be able to cover basic costs for his family, and he was a first out of now we're facing a second person, right, who trying to escape very recently, right, within the last week. The man that was running away, same thing here in California, from these ICE raids, ran onto the freeway and was struck by cars. Here we are. How many more lives of these people are we going to sacrifice before we actually say enough is enough and rise up and actually say no? This is why, again, why I said that this call from refusefascism.org is coming at the right moment. We cannot, afford to put at risk the lives of these people that are, here in a city like LA. People are not coming out into the streets. They're not even going out for basic needs. You have organizations that are having to deliver food to their front doors because they're so afraid. In an article from the LA Times talking about, this important work that the LAUSD, the school district here in LA, has done to actually to prevent these raids from happening in the schools, right? It points to a woman who hadn't even come out of her home, from I think a whole month, during the summer. She sat in her home with her child for the whole summer because she was just afraid of coming out and actually being, picked up by these ICE agents. And this is just on the question of immigration. I'm not even beginning to touch on all of these, on the whole of society that these fascists are just going after, right?
Yeah, it's all of society. And you're right to talk about the terror being inflicted on immigrants, but let's look at what's happening in the streets of DC right now.
You all right, dude? You good? No. Hey, pull Chris off. Pull Chris off. Stop! Get out of our city. Get out of our city. Choke yourself out.
What agency are you guys with?
Who are you guys? Oh, are you guys the cops? Shut the up. Are you? Who are you? Who are you? Take your mask off and show me some badge.
What agency are you guys with?
It's so easy to be behind a mask. Can you guys tell us who you are? Who are you? Well, you guys are ruining this country. You know that, right? Liberals already ruined it.
Oh,
there we go. Okay.
Can we see some badge work, guys?
His property.
Hey, guys.
Already ruined it. No number, no ID, no name.
Now, right there, you see the brutality of the FBI, the National Guard, the ICE agents. We don't even know because they don't identify themselves, but Trump has flooded DC, militarized it, taken it over like a police state, and now governors of other red states are sending in their National Guards, taking over this democratically run city that has got a very large black population, and that's a big target of who Trump and his forces are going after, is black youth in particular, but not only. But I want to also note what one of those agents, one of those masked thugs said when the bystanders were calling them out and saying, "You're ruining this country." One of them turns to the crowd of decent human beings whose sense of conscience is being violated by what they see and says, "No, the liberals already ruined the country." That's what this agent said. Now think about this. One of the principles that's supposed to make this society legitimate is it's supposed to be run by the rule of law. That means you're supposed to have the same rights, no matter who you are, your background, your political beliefs, any of this. And the agencies that enforce the law enforcement, the courts, the military, the FBI, are supposed to be nonpartisan. They're supposed to enforce evenly. Now, we know that's never been the case, especially if you're black and brown or if you're poor. We know that's never been the case consistently. But here is Trump openly recruiting the most racist people into the ICE, recruiting openly. You want to wear a mask? You want to terrorize brown people? You join this. You get a $50,000 signing bonus. And he is sending them and the National Guard into democratically run cities. That's who he's sent them to, and that's who he's threatening. He says it's for crime, but he's not sending them into red states and red cities with higher crime rates than DC. He's sending them into blue places. And this is part of a fascist takeover. It's the terror against the masses of people, and it is the terror and the takeover against any opposition, even within the halls of power. This is fascism. It is happening now.
I think what you're saying really highlights the fact that this whole Trump fascist regime is illegitimate, and nobody should be trying to live with it, trying to accept it, or even trying to justify any of what they're actually carrying out. They say, oh, we're doing it to combat crime, to go after thugs and criminals and drug dealers and rapists. No, this whole fascist regime is illegitimate. You want to talk about who the real criminals are? Look at the White House. That's where the real criminals are.
Yeah, and no one should be trying to wait this out, thinking it'll blow over. We'll, if we just hold them back. I heard this recently. We just hold them back for the next year till we get to the midterms. Put down the pipe, whatever you are smoking. That is not what time it is. These people they're taking over, they're consolidating now. We cannot wait another year and a half. And besides that, no one in their right minds should count on or expect or dream in your wildest fantasies that Donald Trump and his MAGA fascist thugs are going to respect an election they lose. He didn't respect the last election. He incited an insurrection. He pardoned the insurrectionists. And he's already openly rigging the next election. This has to be driven out now. And so this is why it's so important, so momentous that refusefascism.org has called for this, made this announcement. And what we want to do now is we want to go to some footage in Washington, D.C. this past weekend where Refuse Fascism organized and led a protest against the military takeover of D.C., but also raising the demand, Trump must go now, and announcing this plan for November. We're going to go now to Sam Goldman speaking to a crowd of more than 2,000 in Washington, D.C. this last weekend. Sam is a leader in Refuse Fascism.
I am here because the only real solution is for us to rise to the historic challenge to drive this regime from power, not in 2026, not in 2028, but right fucking now. Trump must go now. Trump must go now. So today, I'm going to lay out why we say this. And I'm also going to lay out what we need to do together to make that real. Fascism has momentum and direction. Momentum. It's moving fast by the day, advancing by the hour. Direction. Always in one direction. More repression, more violence, more terror. Direction. Project 2025 on steroids. Hitler's playbook, but with nuclear weapons. What's happening right here in DC right now is their next leap. If they can lock this down, and if people get used to it, it becomes the model for the whole country, with ever increasing brutality and less space for us to stop it. Homeless encampments bulldozed, checkpoints in our neighborhoods, an occupying army of masked men with guns roaming the streets, hunting down black youth, dripping with their white supremacy. We have seen many beautiful people in DC rise up, and I want to make some noise for them. Make some noise for the people directing people away from checkpoints. Make some noise for the people who hear about these checkpoints and walk out of the nightclub and tell those fascists to get the fuck out. Make some noise for the people doing neighborhood patrols and cop watches alerting the community. And some noise for the people that are banging their pots and pans every night at 8 p.m. Make some noise for the veterans urging Guards members to refuse to obey unconstitutional orders. Now, as we make noise for those standing up, we gotta also be honest. We here today, all of us, are beautiful together. But when fascists take over the Capitol, when they send in the National Guard, the FBI, hunting down our youth, attacking the homeless, these streets should be flooded. Trump will not stop as long as he is allowed to remain in power. That's right. Backed by a fascist regime that will not stop until everyone they hate is either locked up, disappeared, or forced to their knees. cannot allow this. We must drive this regime from power. Trump must go. There is no living with this. There is no making peace with this. There is no waiting it out, doing our best to protect some people for some time while it only gets worse and worse and worse. Let's be real. We've already let it go way too far. To this end, I am honored to share an audacious, urgent call to act initiated by RefuseFascism.org and open to all. A bold plan that measures up to what we face. A bold plan that everyone needs to come together to realize. The time has come for the fall of the Trump fascist regime. Beginning November 5th, 2025, Washington, D.C. Fascism is not a looming threat. It is upon us now. Humanity's only hope is for the decent people of this country to rise in our millions. We cannot wait for future and rigged elections. We must drive out the Trump fascist regime from power. Beginning November 5th, the one-year anniversary of Trump's election, flood D.C. and determines a nonviolent protest. Surround the White House, surround the Capitol, surround the illegitimate fascist PAC Supreme Court. Come back again and again and again. Across the country, refuse to comply. Every person of conscience, millions of us together, grind the machinery of this fascist regime to a halt. Don't stop until Trump is removed. The Trump fascist regime is illegitimate. Say it with me. Illegitimate. What it is demanding we become unconscionable. At every level of society, in every institution, tens of millions of us know this in our very bones. If we dare, we can defeat a horror that threatens humanity's very survival.
It's despicable. Despicable.
It is. And if we fail to even try, future generations, if they exist, will never forgive us.
So again, beginning November 5th, 2025, flood Washington, D.C. in nonviolent protest, surround the White House, surround the Capitol, surround the illegitimately fascist-packed Supreme Court, come back again and again and raise the demand Trump must go now. Now is the time, people. As Sam said in her speech, we've let this gone on way too long. And as coming back to the call of the urgency of this, now is the time to act. Future generations, if there are future generations, are not going to forgive us if we don't actually stand up. It's going to be a challenge, but it's actually what's required, and it is what's necessary to bring forward and stop this.
Yeah, I want to say people fear the chaos. They fear the disruption to their lives. They, how many people do we talk to who say they're watching their social media, watching the disappearances, crying? People in the sciences whose life work and research is being nixed, and they know it's going to not only, deplete humanity's store of knowledge, but cost, in some cases, millions and millions of lives. They just cut the vaccine research for the next flu pandemic. And people know this is going to cost millions of lives worldwide. So people are watching this. But they're going, if I speak, if I act, there's consequences. Yes, there are. That's what it means to live in a consolidating fascist state. But the consequences to your life, the disruption to your life, to your institution, to this society is not as bad as the fascism that is already upon us and the worst horrors to come. We have to get out of our comfort zones. You need to. Every single one of us needs to. And it needs to begin now. Yes, Converge in Washington, D.C., November 5th. That's when the drive out, the mass nonviolent, relentless protest and resistance in D.C. and spreading nationwide needs to begin and take on at a whole other level. From that day forward, no business as usual. But it needs to begin now. People standing up. And, we were reading about this very inspiring, very important beginning here in California. It started at UCLA in the UC California school districts, universities, where Trump has imposed a $1 billion fine on UCLA and gutted a huge amount of funding for research under the bullshit definition of anti-Semitism that they've imposed, and said that this school has been anti-Semitic, and so they have to pay this big fine. Now, we'll get into what is wrong with this definition in just a minute. We'll play something from Rafael Caderas that breaks this down. But let's just note here, it's a bullshit definition. And over 300 professors who are, some of them are proud supporters of Israel, some of them are against Israel. They are across the political spectrum, came together and decried and denounced this fine from Trump. And we were very encouraged by this and the fact that people know this is bullshit. And even people who support Israel are saying this is a violation and shouldn't go down. But then we were saying, this needs to go further. It's not enough to plead with Trump not to impose the fine. They should be demanding their institution refuse to pay the fine. They need to be demanding their institution refuse to comply with this illegitimate definition of anti-Semitism and use it as a weapon of repression. There needs to be an insistence that institutions, instead of following like dominoes, one after the other, law firms, universities, hospitals, research, all one after the other falling to Trump's demands, need to start standing up, and the dominoes need to start falling in the other direction. People's courageous defiance and non-compliance, not just individually, but collectively, and on an institutional level, needs to start inspiring others to do the same throughout every quadrant of society. And it needs to be linked to and pointing to November 5th, DC. We are going there in our massive numbers to nonviolently drive this fascist regime from power.
That's right. And all of this cannot wait until November 5th. It has to begin to happen now, including everybody that's watching at home. Begin spreading this. Make this a big deal across society. Make it a mass question. Are people having to decide, am I going to DC? Am I supporting people that are going to DC? Or am I just going to sit this out? Like, people actually do have to be forced to confront that this is the moment to actually act. And what we do now, or what we don't do now, is gonna drastically affect the future ahead of us. So people have to feel that challenge and have to be, they have to be forced to confront what we're dealing with, but also the possibility and the fact that we're actually doing this and that we're calling on people to do this now. So you watching at home, it might mean stepping out of your comfort zone. It might mean, people actually going to all sections of society and actually making this a big deal, this call for Washington, D.C. In a place like LA, we're looking at renting buses to go from LA to Washington, D.C. That's gonna take tremendous amounts of funds and people from all over that have contributed, but also many more that haven't even heard about this that need to be brought into raising big funds to make this happen.
Go to refusefascism.org, read the full call for this, print it out, spread it everywhere. Get to work on this now and bring everybody you know to do the same. We hope to be reporting on a lot more brewing in the coming days and weeks here on this show. We want to play now from Rafael Caderas, as I just promised, his breakdown on the bullshit definition of anti-Semitism that's being pushed by the Trump regime and weaponized as a tool to bludgeon opposition, especially on universities. Let's watch.
I want to talk about the new definition of anti-Semitism, which Columbia University and a number of other schools have now adopted, and which dishonestly equates criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. To be clear, anti-Semitism, hatred of Jewish people just for being Jews, is very real and has been used for centuries to persecute and, yes, exterminate Jewish people. But this is very different from opposition to the Jewish supremacist state of Israel. Let's get into it. The new International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition says that it's anti-Semitic to claim that the existence of the state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Well, is it true or not that Israel is a racist endeavor? Theodor Herzl, the founder of the Zionist movement, said that Zionism is a colonial idea and marketed it to the British racist imperialists explicitly on that basis. Zionist leaders promoted the myth that Palestine was a land without people for a people without land, erasing the existence of an entire people. Israel was literally created in 1948 through the terroristic destruction of hundreds of Palestinian villages and the ethnic cleansing of almost 1 million Palestinians from the territory. Israel played a key role in backing apartheid South Africa, as well as the brutal death squads in Guatemala that slaughtered 200,000 indigenous Mayan people. Israel has kept the Palestinian people in the West Bank under military occupation without even the pretense of equal rights, with separate and unequal towns, roads, checkpoints, subject to state-sanctioned lynch mob violence from Jewish supremacist settlers, very similar to the Jim Crow South and, yes, apartheid South Africa. In 2018, the state of Israel officially threw off its mask of being a democracy for all and declared itself to be a nation state of the Jewish people, formalizing what had been the unofficial reality all along: Jewish supremacy. In other words, racism. None of this is anti-Semitic, it is just the truth. Another section of the IHRA definition says that comparing Israeli policy to the Nazis is inherently anti-Semitic. Have you seen Gaza? The total destruction, the emaciated bodies, the crowds of Israelis chanting death to the Arabs, the Israeli politicians calling Palestinians animals, declaring that every baby in Gaza is an enemy, and demanding that Gaza be erased? In 1982, as Israel was bombing Beirut at that time, a Jewish Holocaust survivor living in Israel wrote, "In my childhood, I have suffered fear, hunger, and humiliation when I passed from the Warsaw Ghetto through labor camps to Buchenwald. Today, as a citizen of Israel, I cannot accept the systematic destruction of cities, towns, and refugee camps. I cannot accept the technocratic cruelty of the bombing, destroying, and killing of human beings. Too many things in Israel remind me of too many things in my childhood." This truth rings out even more loudly today. As the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian put it, Israel has done something truly incredible. Israel has managed to turn Jews into Nazis. That is not anti-Semitic, it is just the truth. What Columbia and other universities are doing by imposing this definition is not only an assault on the truth about Israel and Palestine and makes teaching about this impossible, it is an assault on truth itself. It's no different than demanding biology professors no longer teach the science of evolution, which, if these MAGA fascists have their way, will probably happen sooner or later. Which brings me to the key point. Now's the time to draw the line. Any university administration taking up this lying definition of anti-Semitism and using it to expel students, police coursework, and suppress campus protests has become a willing accomplice of fascism. Any accommodation to this definition by faculty or students, no matter the excuse, is collaboration. Any self-censorship in the name of preserving the institution, or your funding, or your job, just means that in the end, all you will have preserved is a university that is nothing more than an instrument of fascist indoctrination. And what you will have lost is your honesty, integrity, and humanity. We can defeat this fascism, but it's going to take all of us standing up now with courage and conviction. A big shout out to Rashid Khalidi, Marianne Hirsch, and the small number of other professors who have said that they cannot and will not teach under these conditions. But as our website revcom.us put it, what is needed now is something more. A massive refusal to accommodate to this new order. A massive institutional non-compliance linked to a growing demand throughout society. The fascist Trump regime must go now.
So we've been talking about fascism and defeating that fascism, and we're sincere about uniting all who can be united to make that real, to defeat this fascism. At the same time, we're in the course of that unity, we're bringing to people the actual reality of where this fascism comes from. Look, a lot of people want to say, well, this is just Russian made. You know, Trump just came from Russia. He's Putin's puppet, right? But no, the reality is that Trump and this whole fascist regime came out of the very soil of this system of capitalism, imperialism, a system that was founded on slavery, genocide, white supremacy, and we need a revolution to abolish that system.
Look, this system is extremely powerful, and especially U.S. imperialism. It sits on and it feasts off the exploitation, the plunder that it carries out all over the world. It's a very stable system. and has been for a long generations now. But this system is in profound crisis. And actually, the Trump regime is a product of this crisis. It's a product of this system running up against its limits in the world, straining against those limits and bringing forward a very extreme, fascist, extremely dangerous resolution to that. But in the course of this regime is ripping up all of the cohering norms, all of the things that have helped maintain this system's stability. Its supposed democratic form of rule, its checks and balances, its due process, rule of law, and it's unleashing all this terror that flies in the face of the myth that they've liked to promote, that with whatever imperfections, whatever original sin of slavery or whatever else, this is a ever more perfecting country, ever more perfecting. The good thing about America is it gets better. Well, right now, they're shoving your face in it. It's getting worse, and it's getting dragged backwards with a vengeance. And they're ripping off the mask of democracy. And when they do this, it is extremely dangerous, but the system also has vulnerabilities that have not been on the foreground in this way for generations. It is a time when revolution is more possible than it's been in generations. And so we're, like you said, we're uniting with all who can be united to stand up and defeat this fascism. At the same time, we are fighting to take this further towards an actual revolution. And to this end, we wanted to talk about, what does a real revolution bring about? What does it make possible? Revolution is the dismantling and the overthrow and the abolition of the system of capitalism. And what we would establish is a socialist society. And socialism has nothing to do with what most people think socialism is. It is not, as I said in the beginning, it is not Zoran Mamdani promising you free buses that come faster within a world of imperialism, while Black youth are still being killed by police 2 a day, where ICE is rounding people up, where the environment's being destroyed, where women are being denied the right to abortion, and everything rests on brutal exploitation all over the world. No, socialism is the overthrow of that system and the establishment of a new state power, a new economic system, a new political system. Socialism is what Bob Avakian broke down very scientifically in the speech, The Revolution, Nothing Less, that we're about to share a clip from. And not only does Bob Avakian break down what socialism actually is, he's advanced humanity's understanding of how to lead a socialist state in a way that actually goes all the way to full emancipation. Let's watch this clip now.
The first great leap with the overthrow of the capitalist system is the creation of the socialist system. Socialism is 3 things: a new economic system, a new system of political rule, and a transition aiming for communism throughout the world. Now let's start with a new economic system very briefly. What it means is replacing a system where you have private appropriation by rival capitalists of wealth that is socially produced by ultimately hundreds of millions or even billions of people. It means that the resources of society, including the technology and land, the resources at hand from nature, become the common property of the people as a whole. Not that everybody uses the same toothbrush, or everybody eats literally the same food and then regurgitates it and then you eat it after me. No. It means that the means of producing wealth and the resources become the common property of society, with the state under socialism being the centralizing force in all this to both plan, through involving the masses of people, both plan and then marshal the resources that are collectively being owned by the people to meet the needs of the people, to meet their immediate needs, to put away stores for natural disasters and for the future, and to defend that revolution while at the same time carrying it forward within the country itself and supporting that revolution in the world as a whole. That is what the purpose of the socialist economy is. It aims to do 3 things, or is based on 3 principles: to meet the needs of the people, to meet the needs of the revolution, not just in the country, but in the world as a whole, and to transform the relationship between people and the environment so as to reverse damage that's been done and is continually being done under the present system as much as possible, and to actually enable people in their society to be fit caretakers of the earth. So that's a new economic system of socialism. A new system of political rule means we get rid of what is in fact the dictatorship of the capitalist class and replace it with the dictatorship of those people who have been exploited under the capitalist system. Oh, I know, everybody says, dictatorship, that's a scary word. It means somebody stands up and bangs on the table and says, you will do this and you will do that. You may not do this, you may not think that. That's not what it means. A dictatorship means a system of rule, going back to those 3 sentences I read earlier. It means a system of rule in the interest of one group of people in society or another, in the interest of one program, one set of social relations or another. It means backing up and giving force to those relations and that system in order, in the case of socialism, to transform society toward the elimination of all these relations that divide and oppress people, and upon achieving that, the abolition of any need for any kind of dictatorship. Now, it would be nice if the people presently ruling the world and exercising dictatorship here and forcibly in other parts of the world as well would adopt the attitude when confronted by people saying, you know you've done wrong, you know you've committed countless crimes against humanity and war crimes, you know you've done bad thing after bad thing to people, you're destroying the environment, you've destroyed large parts of countries like Vietnam, you've assassinated and slaughtered millions of people, please get out of the way. And they would say, well, let's think about it. Maybe you have a point. Maybe we have done wrong after wrong, committed crime after crime against humanity, slaughtered, butchered people, committed atrocities from one part of the world to the other. Why don't we just step aside and let you see if you can build a different society for a couple of decades, and then we'll check back in, and if you're doing well, we'll join in, and if you're not doing so well, then maybe we'll take over again. That would be nice. But everybody knows that is not going to happen. And neither, if you have a revolution in a particular country, are the same kind of exploiters in other parts of the world going to act differently toward that revolution than attempting to crush it as well. So you need to be able to defend your revolution with a state and the institutions of that state, including an army, which are geared to, in fact, enforcing the new system, not the old system of exploitation and oppression, while protecting the rights of the people. Now again, some people say, well, all that may be true, but why don't you call it something else? Because dictatorship, that makes me uncomfortable. People are saying these kind of things to us all the time. Communism, a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people have prejudice against communism. Why don't you call it something else? It's a good idea, but why don't you call it something else besides communism? Well, supposing we call it Lee Bapa Do Bapa Hai. Okay, and then we go out to people and we say, we're for Lee Bapa Do Bapa Hai. Now, I know there are a lot of people that are ignorant in this society, spend way too much time watching, the housewives of this or that, or the Kardashians, or ultimate fighting, or too much football with concussions, and so on and so forth. But not everybody's a fool and ignorant. And after a little while, we go up and say, for Wee Bapa Do Bapa Hai, and they say, well, tell me what that means. And when we tell them, and they say, wait a minute, that sounds like that communism thing. The point is, we're not going to change society by tricking people into it, by trying to hide what we're for. A revolution, particularly a revolution which aims to put an end to all these kind of oppressive divisions and exploitative relations, has to be the conscious act of growing numbers of people. They have to know what they're fighting for and why. And if you try to trick them or soft pedal it and market it a different way and give it a different brand, then you're just working against that. And that gets to the second point. Not only can't you and should you not want to try to trick people into making this kind of change, but pretty soon, if you proceed in this way, you yourself are not going to be about what you should be about anymore either. Because if you proceed by bowing down to, playing to, and capitulating to the misconceptions and prejudices that have been bred in people by this system, you will end up giving up on everything you're supposed to be about and increasingly just tailoring and fashioning what you're about to what is acceptable to people at any given time. We've seen this happen repeatedly in the history of the movement, even happen in our own party, which I'll talk about a little later. Revolution, well, that's not really going to happen, or maybe it's not even so desirable as well as not possible. Communism, let's either get rid of the word or let's redefine it to just a better form of democracy. And then you're not about anything different than what already exists. And you're only doing harm out here pretending to be about something different and misleading people and betraying them. So we have to tell people the truth. We want to get rid of all divisions, including the political divisions where you have to have a state that upholds the right of the people, but also upholds the rules of the game as they're being brought forth under the new system that's aiming to get rid of exploitation and oppression. We want to move beyond all that, but in order to move beyond all of it, we have to go through a phase of transforming all these things. And we have to be able to back it up with the power of a state, or else we're going to be crushed in a minute. Especially existing in a world where there are a lot of forces out there who want to crush this. But most fundamentally of all, socialism is a transition to communism. The whole point of it is both to transform the society itself within the socialist country, but above all, to contribute to the advance of the revolution aiming for communism in the world as a whole, so we can get to the point where these oppressive and exploitative divisions and relations no longer exist, and we no longer need one part of society to be ruling, even if it's the majority of society, to be ruling over other parts of society. But until we have arrived at the point where class divisions and oppressive relations have been overcome, and not just in one part of the world, but in the world as a whole, then where a revolution is made and capitalism overthrown, there will be a need for a new state with new revolutionary institutions to give backing and force to the new system and to the struggle to continue transforming society toward the goal of abolishing, in fact, all relations of exploitation and all oppressive divisions. A new revolutionary state, which, while protecting the rights of the people, embodied in a new socialist constitution, will provide the means for increasingly involving the masses of people themselves in utilizing these revolutionary institutions to carry out this world historic transformation, while giving all possible support to the struggle toward the same goal throughout the world. This is what the new synthesis of communism that I have brought forward on the basis of decades of work summing up the prior experience of socialist society, both positive and negative, and of the communist movement overall, and drawing from many other fields of human endeavor and experience. This is what this new synthesis is all about. This new synthesis recognizes the importance of the world revolution above all, and it emphasizes and recognizes and emphasizes that with the dictatorship of the proletariat, it is very important that dissent not only be allowed, but that it be encouraged and fostered. That there needs to be the expression of people seeking out solutions in many different ways and pursuing different paths while work is going on to have this all ultimately contribute to the advance toward communism through the transformation of that society and the contribution to the revolution in the world as a whole, aiming to abolish all relations of exploitation and oppression. One of the key ways this has been formulated with this new synthesis is the need for a solid core with a lot of elasticity. This means you need a solid core that is firmly grounded in and determined to fight all the way through for the goal of communism, and is increasingly growing as more and more people are won to that, while at the same time the maximum possible expression is given to diversity, creativity, dissent, innovativeness in society, with people going in many different directions on the basis of that solid core, and in the framework where the solid core in particular is working to make it all contribute to the struggle for communism throughout the world. So this is about the transformation of society and of the people who make up society, economically, socially, politically, and ideologically and culturally, all aiming for a communist world. Now, I want to refer here and urge people to get deeply into, and if you read it once, go back to it, the Constitution for the New Socialist Republic in North America draft proposal, which our party has published. This Constitution is, in a living way, an application of the new synthesis of communism. It provides both basic principles but also concrete guidelines for the new society, the socialist society and transition to communism that we're talking about would actually operate. According to which principles, based on what guidelines. And it's both at one and the same time very sweeping and very concrete. So I'd urge people to really dig deeply into this. If you already read it once, go back and dig more deeply into it, because this is very rich and it's very important. And I would say contrast it with the exploiters' constitution that we now live under.
So that was Bob Avakian. For everybody that wants to understand the world and how to go about changing it, you need to follow at Bob Avakian Official. This is real-time leadership in a moment of, again, very real serious danger, but also possibilities. Even to just be able to understand the fascism that we're confronting, people should go and dig into this. There's an incredible interview that Sunsara, you conducted with Bob Avakian that's on this channel that people need to go and dig into and seriously engage.
Okay, so before we close today's episode, we want to bring you a few more voices from the protest Refuse Fascism held in Washington, D.C. this last Saturday. Let's hear them now.
Checkpoints all over the city, not here, but all over the United States. People running away from ICE at a Home Depot in California. A guy was hit by a truck and died this week. That's inhumane. That's not what America stands for. So, Carlos Montoya, what's his name? He's from Mexico, 52 years old. The person who passed away. Carlos Montoya, 52 years old, from Mexico. Every day is a wound to our community. Every day is a call to action for all of us, immigrants and non-immigrants. Every time they're apprehended, they kidnap one of my brothers and sisters at a checkpoint. That hurt every single immigrant, and it hurts people who believe in humanity. And that's when we have to come out to the street and protest, because they are afraid. In the DC area, the community is afraid, even now, to call the police, because the police is being taken by this fascist regime on the back. Let's protect my people. We need your help. As I always say, we're gonna continue marching. This is the beginning. I cannot change the world, but we can start together changing the world.
Troops on the street, we say no! Now's the time for Trump to go! Now's the time for Trump to go!
When he announced the fascist takeover of policing in D.C., he was delivering a message to black people and everybody else who was listening. Listen to how he phrased this. There are marauding mobs of young gangsters rampaging our streets and causing crime. Who the hell was he talking about when he said marauding mobs of young gangsters? He was talking about black people. Because in Trump's mind, his genocidal racist mind, black people are always criminals. Look at how he approached the Central Park 5. Look it up. I ain't gonna get into that now because I ain't got the time. That is where this motherfucker was coming from. And he said, we're gonna knock the hell out of him. He's telling you, black people and others, that I'm gonna beat black people down so far that they will think they were up back in the days of slavery and Jim Crow segregation. Because that is where this motherfucker and his fascist program is coming from. This is a crucial part of it. Now, when I say this, I ain't talking about black people were in paradise before Trump came. No, because this system has always had, at least for my lifetime, and I've been around for a while, an approach to black people of penning them in, locking them up, and even killing them off. What Trump is saying is, I'm going to accelerate and intensify that shit. I'm going to take the slow genocide that you were getting black people, and I'm going to make it a fast genocide. And we got to say what we going to do about that. First off, what are all of us going to do about that? No one should find it okay to live in a society like that. Nobody should get used to it. Nobody should go along with it. We got to all stand up and say this shit is unconscionable and intolerable. It must be stopped, and we're going to stand together to stop it.
I was raised in the mountains. I was raised to be racist. I was raised a white supremacist because that's what America fucking is. I joined the army when I was 18. I went off to Iraq and Afghanistan. Those are both occupations. I denounced them. You see, I was taught the ideas of white supremacy, but the reality is, had we just listened to black people 60 fucking years ago, we wouldn't be here. The problem is, white people love to accept progress as success. We'll say it again. White people like to accept progress as success. Well, let me quote another black revolutionary, El Haj Malik El Shabazz. For those unread, you may know him as Malcolm X. Malcolm said, if you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. If you pull it out all the way, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that's below the blow that was made. And they haven't even begun to pull the knife out, much less heal the wound. Progress means always going forward. If you think MAGA is the result of this, you're not paying attention. MAGA is the result of white supremacy. I'm going to speak fast now, so rewind the tape if you don't keep up. After the Civil War, we allowed Jim Crow to start. We allowed the 13th Amendment to change slavery from the fields to the penitentiary. We allowed the United Daughters of the Confederacy to build statues and rewrite history books. We allowed the KKK to roam free and produce films that were shown right down the street in the White House. We allowed the assassination of the very leaders I just finished quoting. We allowed the war on drugs to target black and brown communities under the auspices of cleaning up our streets. We allowed the President of the United States to use the term super predator. I'm talking to you, Clinton. We allowed them black men in handcuffs. We allowed them to drag black men in handcuffs across the TV screen every day on the evening news so that America would be conditioned to believe that the war on drugs was the war on black and brown communities. We allowed the rise of Donald Trump. We allowed MAGA. And now here we are full circle. Cleaning up our streets is what they tell us. Here we are full circle. We're just trying to get the thugs off the streets. Here we are full circle as we allow them to harass the unhoused, to further over-police black and brown neighborhoods, to terrorize migrants, and to suppress the voices of dissent. As I break shit. Well, let me be loud and clear. Not on our watch. Not on our watch. As Fannie Lou Hamer once said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's time that we acknowledge the true poison in this country, the true cancer in this country. It's white supremacy. It's why the fuck we're here. The white supremacists in the White House right now isn't the last of them. They are the Heritage Foundation. They are J.D. Vance. They are Russell Vought. They are Steve Miller. They are the MAGA movement. right. Trump must go now. You're right. But white supremacy must fucking follow.
All right, so those were voices from occupied DC, fascist occupied DC, standing up. And we talked about the emergency, what's going on down in DC, what Trump is threatening across the rest of the country, what he's already doing. Fascism is upon us, and now is the time for you to find your courage, your voice, your willingness to step out and be among the first. Look, we talked about the falling dominoes of capitulation, one university after the other accepting an unacceptable assault on academic freedom, on the very mission of the university becoming instruments of fascism. Same with law firms, same with different institutions throughout society. But just like capitulation and fear and cowering and making excuses is contagious, so is courage. And so is standing up for what's true and what everybody knows is right, or at least what every decent person knows is right. There are tens of millions of people who are sick at heart at what's being done. It matters so much that Refuse Fascism has taken this responsibility, and I'm part of leading Refuse Fascism together with others, that we have taken this responsibility to lay down a marker and give people a way to act that is commensurate, that measures up to the threat that humanity faces. We have to take this chance, and we have to take it together, and we have to fight for others to join us. Courage is contagious. The willingness to sacrifice for the greater good is contagious, and especially, like I said, when tens of millions know that this is what needs to be done, or they feel it and can be won to know it if we act and if we struggle with them. So we're calling on you, not next week, next year, when it's convenient, right now, to reorganize your life and your priorities to in line with the emergency we face. Get the call from refusefascism.org's website or from revcom.us, print it out, share it with everybody you know, make plans to act on it starting now.
Hell yeah. So on that note, we're going to end today's show. We want to thank the Revolution Nothing Less show crew. Thanks to everyone watching at home. Like, subscribe, share this video, and leave a comment below.
And we'll see you next week.